Welcome, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Scagly Bones. Back with another video for you today. Diablo 3. So, it's been a little slow going for me, Season 3. I guess there's been some issues where people have been kind of taking advantage of an exploit with blood shards, as you've probably already heard. I'm not going to really go through that exploit and talk about it. That's not why we're here today. We are here to look at a slightly different build that I've been using, only because of some of the gear that I picked up. So, typically with Diablo 3, your builds are based on the gear that you do find, especially your legendaries and your sets. So, at this point in time, as you can see, I'm only at 45, level 70, Paragon level 45. Here is what I have stacked. I'm going to kind of go through my build a little bit. So right now, my core Paragon levels, I'm putting in strength for a little bit extra damage. And that also gives you bonus armor as well. Offense, critical hit chance, because right now, if I was to take this out of, I get actually more damage with the way. As you can see, my critical hit damage is a 331, so if I was to get rid of the critical hit, that would drop critical hit chance. So you want this, ultimately, your critical hit chance, you want right around 40% to 50% right in there. That's really the sweet spot for damage. And then, of course, at this level, we can have critical hit damage at 331%. That's not really the sweet spot. You kind of ultimately, when you're doing your really heavier greater rifts in your level 40s and stuff, you want to be at around 500% critical hit damage. But for right now, this is kind of the sweet spot. Whatever your critical hit chance here, that first number, you want to kind of keep this first number close. So if you're sitting at around 30, that's what I found sweet spot wise. So sweet spot wise, if I'm sitting at 40%, I want to have this right around 400%. So one of the things you can do, if you're at a higher Paragon level, you can kind of use that between your critical hit chance, critical hit damage, kind of to balance it out a little bit. So you kind of can fiddle with that a little bit. So if we were to look at this here, my damage is right now, it's pretty low at 536,000 damage. So if we go over to Paragon, reset this, go all the way up to our critical hit damage there, hit accept, 535. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot of damage difference. As you can see here, it only drops it a little bit, 29.5%. Instead of 30.5%. This goes up to 342%. But because we want to keep it kind of at that sweet spot, we're going to reset this. Put this all the way up. That's 1.1%. Now, once we get this all the way up to 50, this will be 10%, plus 10% critical hit chance, which will really max out our damage there. For what you can do with Paragon levels. Then, of course, the next one I'll go into is critical hit damage. Now, of course, at this point, if I had like 40 or 50% critical hit chance and very low critical hit damage, I would just add to critical hit damage. So you kind of got to experiment with that as far as that's concerned. Defense, I always put into all resist first. Then I put it into armor or life regen, depending on what I need. Sometimes I might not go with that, and I might go into life here, but typically, I leave life for last. You want to go after all resist, go into armor. And almost never do you need life regen because you can almost always get that on almost all your equipment. So life regeneration isn't really that critical. Resist all is quite important, though. Especially if you're doing, as you can see, we're on hardcore. Utility-wise, as you can see, we are, this is kind of personal preference, but right now I'm doing resource cost reduction. Reason being is when you start to get into your heavy spenders, resource cost reduction, especially when you don't have a lot of it on your gear, can help out quite a bit. And the less that your resource spenders, like your Blessed Shield, so at 2%, if you get this up to max, which is a 10% resource cost reduction, 10% of 20 wrath is a good amount. So especially when you have to use something like this to regain wrath. So it makes it a lot better. You can use life on hit if you don't have any life on hit from weapons or anything else. So you can kind of use that. I almost never use gold find or area damage, but that's kind of up to you as a preference. This utility is kind of, it's not going to make or break you in your builds. So as you can see here, this is my gear that I have, and I'm kind of using a hodgepodge. As you can see, I only have 2 set items, and they don't even match. I do have one other piece for this, for the Invoker set. It does, I'll show you real quick here, my stash. I do have a couple extra bracers here. As you can see here, I have Shackles of the Invoker. Of course, I have this other Dracon's Lesson, which would be great, but I'm not using Shield Bash there. The reason I'm not using this legendary chest piece is because I only have 1 empty slot. Now, I do have 96 all resist on it, which would kind of make up a little bit, but I'd have a little bit less all resist on it, and that legendary affix of dropping the gold is not really worth it for me. So until I can roll this to be a 3, I'm not going to pretty much use it. And probably by the time I'll probably have another piece of the Akon set. So, because that's right now I'm going after chest pieces or helm pieces right now. So as you can see, I could use the Shackles of the Invoker, which would give me a for 2. It would give me ranged and melee attackers take 4,000 damage per hit. So that would add to my thorns, because this is the Invoker set is a thorn set. But the only reason I got this right now is I was rolling from Kadala. This popped, happened to be one of the pieces I got, and it was a lot better than the other gloves that I had previously had. So that's what I got right now. So even though I'm not getting a set bonus from it, the critical hit chance that it had, and the resource cost reduction, and the regeneration of health was considerably better. I think the other piece had critical chance of 7%. So I could re-roll this, but right now I don't have the resources to be re-rolling legendaries right now, so I haven't been doing that. So as far as shoulder pieces, you can see here we have Spolders as a car, which have been pretty good for me to save money right now, because I don't have a Boon of the Hoarder gem. They are no longer dropping Boon of the Hoarder in the Greater Rifts. Last season, in Season 2, they changed it so that Boon of the Hoarder dropped in Greater Rifts. So it was normally the last legendary gem that would drop after you completed all of it. And as you can see here, here's all my legendary gems, and I have every single one of them. And I have run 2 more Greater Rifts, and I have yet to receive. There is no Boon of the Hoarder, so I'm guessing the Boon of the Hoarder now drops. I haven't read all the notes, so I'm sure somebody's going to correct me here and be like, "Oh, you didn't read all the patch notes." But of course, so Boon of the Hoarder either drops off of a goblin, or they just got rid of it. So right now, I do have 1 socketed ring, so I have Wreath of Lightning in there because I tend to get the most damage from Wreath of Lightning over something like Pain Enhancer or the Gem of Efficacious Toxin. So I tend to get more damage from the Wreath of Lightning. It tends to proc more for me, and but I haven't really upgraded it, and it hits more enemies. Whereas this, it's kind of whatever you directly hit. So this tends to hit more enemies for me. It'll go back and forth and kind of damages everything. It also means that when I'm in regular rifts, that I don't have to go whacking at barrels and stuff like that, and I can collect the most loot and gold that's possible. So just makes my runs a little quicker, I found. Nothing else is socketed right now. As you see, I still have a couple yellow items. I do have a yellow chest with some regen life, strength, vitality, typical three slots. This helm with some all resist, a little bit of all resist, and some life life per hit. Just a standard yellow necklace, but does have 90% resistance to all and critical hit damage, increased by 83%. So that is why, as you can see in my inventory here, I do have a couple other pieces here. In fact, I do have this necklace that has a socket, but it does 6% less damage. And until I get my damage up a little bit higher, I think I'll just kind of keep this for now. I've thought about, and it has all resist, so I've thought about kind of trying to reroll that vitality and try to reroll for critical hit damage, and that's my plan to do that. This is the only other necklace that gives me a little bit more damage, but it doesn't have a slot. Same thing with this Kimball's Gold. So the Zephyrium Amulet, and the nice thing about the Zephyrium Amulet, it does prevent lightning damage and gives you some healing off of it as well. But for right now, let's see. What would that damage give me wise? See, 499 knocks off almost 30. Yeah, it knocks off almost 40,000 damage by switching. So right now, I haven't really figured out which gem would probably be the best to add that extra 40,000 damage. So for right now, I'm not using that. So, but I probably will at some point. Belt wise, I have Witching Hour, and just I've been using this only because I got attack speed, critical hit damage, and regen life. And the only other belt that I have that would be even close, well, the only other belt is the Omni Slash, but it's only good for slash attacks. And if I was using slash attacks, if I was using this shield here, which I'd use slash attack, then I would use that belt. But I'm not using the Freighter's Wrath, because I don't. Condemn costs 40 Wrath, and it's a huge Wrath spender, and it is just real hard to control with not having optimal gear. So I'm keeping it for later on, because I think I want to try a Condemn build later on. Right now, I got the Jenga board, and I'm going to show you. Now we'll kind of get into the build that I'm currently using. So for right now, and the build I'm using is really a very good, until you actually get a full set of either Rolands or Akans for the Crusader. I would say stick to this. I would say stick to one of two leveling builds, and those leveling builds are using instead of a Blessed Shield, you could use a Blessed Hammer. Blessed Hammer build. If you're using Blessed Hammer, and of course you have that belt that I showed you, you could probably use a slash attack. But if you're using Blessed Hammer, you could use a slash attack. That would be very good for controlling damage all around you, because Blessed Hammer isn't a very ranged orientated. But for your generator, you could use easily Justice or Smite to give you some range. Now, right now with Blessed Shield, now here's the interesting thing about Blessed Shield. Blessed Shield is a range attack. It's a range spender, and you're like, what you want to use with Blessed Shield, because Blessed Shield hurls your shield, dealing 430% weapon damage as holy, plus 250% of shield block chance as holy damage. The shield will ricochet for Shattering Shield. Hits an enemy. Well, okay, Blessed Shield, the shield will ricochet to 3 nearby enemies. Use Shattering Shield. The shield hits an enemy. It splits into 3 smaller fragments and bounces between nearby enemies, dealing 170% weapon damage as holy to all enemies hit. So Blessed Shield normally just plain ricochets between 3 nearby enemies. When you use, I use Shattering Shield because it splits it, and you hit more enemies, especially when you get big mobs. It will just hit everything. It will decimate everything. Now, the other thing is you see that Blessed Shield uses 250% of shield block. Now, using Blessed Shield is not vital that you use Jenka board, but Jenka board ricochets to 5 additional enemies. So because we're getting 3 enemies, we're getting 3 additional fragments. So that's a total of 8 enemies that it's going to bounce around to. Okay, so that's quite a lot. So Jenka board adds quite a bit of damage there, and quite a lot more enemies that it's gonna hit. So that's why I have that. The reason I re-rolled for shield block, chance to block, is because this was kind of a low blocking shield. So because you want a higher block, as you can see here, my block chance is 41%. And you say, well, wait a minute, you only have 26% chance to block from your shield. So what the skill I did is I have Holy Cause right now, and because I don't have a lot of gems socketed, instead of using Finery, I'm using Holy Cause and I'm using Hold Your Ground. And Hold Your Ground, you no longer dodge, but your block chances increase by 15%. And since I had no dodge to begin with, that is an awesome trade-off. So I get 15% extra block chance. Okay. Now, you also want to use, whenever you're using a Blessed Shield build, you want to use Punish. And Punish, you strike your enemy for 335 weapon damage and gain Hardened Senses, which increases your block chance by 15% for 5 seconds. Okay, now you can choose whatever rune for this, because this is kind of personal. There's nothing going to increase your block chance for any of the runes even more than the 15%. But when I use Punish, I use Punish at least once every 5 seconds to keep Hardened Senses up. And that will bring this up to 56%. So I'll have 56% block, which means the Jenka board, not the Jenka board, but the Blessed Shield will be doing 250% additional damage on top of 250% damage of 56%, or 56 of 56 on top of the 430%. So ultimately you're doing close to 800% damage, weapon damage, with this Blessed Shield. So it works really well as long as you keep up your Punish. Now, your other skills here, as you can see, you can kind of use whatever you want. I use a couple cooldown damage, which is Condemn, which is instantly unleash a massive explosion. You can use I also use Heaven's Fury as well, because these cooldowns are pretty low. You got 15 seconds and 20 seconds, which ultimately, with Heaven's Fury, that translates to roughly, well, it actually translates to only 15-second downtime. Okay, and then I choose Laws of Valor here. Now you can, let's see here. Trying to see if any of the Laws of Justice gives you block. No, I don't think there's anything that gives you block, extra block chance. There's a shield that will give you extra block. So ultimately, there is another shield that you can get that will actually give you a greater block chance every time you block. And it actually raises the block chance even farther, like another 15%. So you could ultimately get pretty close to almost 100% block by using your Hardened Senses, or by using Punish and Hardened Senses, and a whole bunch of stuff if you really had the shield up there. The only difference is you want to be bouncing around to as many enemies because you're not using Jenka board. But this is the main shield that I recommend using. Now, weapon-wise that I'm using, I found that this weapon works really good with the Jenka board and with this build, is Stalgard's Decimator, which is a two-hander weapon. And the nice thing about Stalgard's Decimator is, because I am using a melee generator of Punish, and you have to be up close and personal, there is no range with this. Stalgard's Decimator Your melee attacks throw piercing axe at nearby enemies, dealing 578% weapon damage as physical. Now, if I was to attack right now, I get no range. Okay? But I'm going to go into... I'm not going to actually go into one of the rifts, but I'll actually show you how this works. And whenever there's an enemy in the area, it's going to throw one of these... it's going to throw a piercing axe at any enemy. It's on 100% all the time. It's always going to throw it, and it does pretty considerable extra damage. But it also makes for a nice... If you got an enemy, let's say way out here, and I hit an attack, I don't have to hit an enemy for it to throw an axe. It will just automatically throw an axe at an enemy. So I can actually sit there and range attack, kind of like using arrows or something like that. I can just range attack enemies through bars or whatever I want to. Now, the axe throw will not activate your hardened senses, okay? Even though you're using your punish attack, it's not going to activate hardened senses. But it is good for when you get into some hairy situations and you need some range, but it will, fortunately, it will generate wrath for you. So it will allow you to use your Jenka board and your blessed shield quite a bit more often. So it is a good little extra skill. It is extra damage. Even if you only have one enemy there, it is going to throw that attack at that enemy and hit it. So not only are you getting 335% damage, you're getting 578% damage added to that for at least one of the enemies. So that's over 800% weapon damage, which is pretty good. So you can get almost as much damage from your punish as you can from your blessed shield. So I'll kind of show you real quick here. We're going to go into, let's see here. I want to kind of go, I know I'm not going to do a, I kind of like using this area to show people and do some testing because it's pretty straightforward. The core area is a really good place to test. But as you can see, I'm not actually throwing anything because there's no enemies there, right? So the attack is still melee. As you can see there, I'm not even close to the enemies, and it's tossing that, and it's doing 5 million damage on average because of the crit chance. So now hardened senses only pops when I actually physically hit them with the punish. So that axe that throws is not going to activate hardened senses. So which can be maybe a little frustrating, but you're a crusader. You're normally in the thick of things. You're going to be I normally jump into a patch of enemies. I don't just fight one enemy at a time. I try to get as much as I can, get pretty close. The cool thing is you're going to always have some enemies that are a little bit farther away. So the use of your blessed shield, and between your blessed shield and your punish and that axe that's throwing around will actually do pretty decent damage. Okay, now I did want to show you something. So some people have asked me, well, why don't you use a single-handed weapon? So I had this weapon here. Sky Splitter dropped, and it dropped with 6% damage, 221 strength, and a socket. I was like, wow, I don't have to reroll anything on this guy. So I just, wait, maybe I rerolled for a socket. Maybe that's what I did. Yes, I rerolled for a socket. I think it had vitality on it. So I rerolled for a socket. I got a socket, and I slapped in a gem for critical hit damage. But let me show you something here. I'm going to put this guy in here. And I'm going to put this guy in here. Brings my damage down to with fervor. I get, let's see, fervor has to activate here. I will get ultimately 492,000 damage. So I lose about 40,000 damage. Okay. Now Sky Splitter has a 17% chance to smite enemies for 600 to 750% weapon damage as lightning when you hit them. Okay. So no matter what attacks you use, it can actually do quite a bit more damage. But I was finding that I wasn't actually killing enemies as quickly using it. So I gave it to my my follower, and it actually works kind of better for him because he ends up getting the damage. So now, like I said, you can use it. The only problem with it, because it's a single-handed weapon, okay, and fortunately because the Stalgar's Decimator is a sword, it's actually a faster of the two-handed weapons, so I don't lose a whole lot of speed here, but this is a little bit enough faster, being an axe. It's enough faster that I use a little bit more wrath than I really want to. So that's why I use the two-handed weapon. It just, I tend to get a little bit better damage out of it. The problem is, with the Sky Splitter, I have no range. I lose the range capability from my primary attack, from my punish. So I've found that I tend to get a little bit better damage with this guy here. Not a lot, and that's not a ton of extra damage. But it's just enough to make it acceptable. Kind of, because that 600 to 750% weapon damage is quite a bit, and it does proc pretty often. But I add it to my follower, and it will proc for him as well. In fact, if you notice there, quite a bit of damage. So it will proc for him, and he'll get some pretty heavy hits. And I've run around and let him just pummel on enemies, just kind of to test it. And yeah, he just hit for 4 million there, if you notice that. So he, and that was because it procced and did a it smited the enemy. So he happened to get a proc there, smited, did a smite on top of his regular attack, and he hit for 4 million, which is really good when you consider it's one of your followers. So that's pretty much, like I said, how I use this build. Let's go here and kill the Diablo, or sorry, not Diablo, Asmodan. I'll kind of show you here. Only in Torment 2 right now, just because I haven't really got everything perfected yet. As you can see, I have no gems on my Depth Diggers. I've been trying to reroll for 2 gem slots, but I haven't been able to get it. Cool thing is with Depth Diggers, you always get all resist. So it's pretty awesome there. And of course, your primary skill, if you notice, deals 84% additional damage. So this guy is going to deal 84% additional damage. Punish. Justice, Slash, or Smite will all deal extra damage. So it's pretty awesome when I'm getting not only 300% or 800%, I'm getting almost 900% to 1,000 damage. Because if you notice, I'm casting that axe on him, Asmodan. And it doesn't seem like a lot because I'm not getting really huge crits. I'm not like getting 10, 20 million crit. But if you notice, there's tons of 1 million crit or 1 million white damage, just a buttload of them hitting. And I'm at a very low. I'm only at 500% damage, or 500,000 damage DPS. So you notice, just hitting million over and over and over and over and over. And like I said, I could kill a lot faster once I get all my gear set properly. But the cool thing is, until you when you're trying to level and you're trying to grind through and get all your gear, you want to have a set that's still going to do decent damage for you. And it's not just your gear, it's kind of your build, how you put your build together. So like I said, that's my new build for grinding it out in Season 3. I know from what everybody's heard, Season 3 is kind of ruined because people are sitting at not a lot of gold, but they're sitting at millions of blood shards spent. As you can see right now, I get 650 blood shards I can hold. So I haven't been that far in Greater Rifts. Of course, my gear ain't that good. So I haven't been that far, but the main thing I'll be trying to roll for is another chest, another helm, and then I'll wait for drops for these, and then I'll try to re-roll some of this stuff. I'll try to get. I'm gonna keep this. That's not too bad. I'll probably re-roll that armor on there, but I'll try to. I'll have to try to gamble away for Kadalas. These will be the last items that I try to gamble away from Kadala, because for right now these are pretty decent. I can re-roll these, and well, I can't re-roll that one because I re-roll for a slot, but I can re-roll this. Maybe try to get slightly. Let's see here. Nope, that's max block chance. So I can't re-roll my Jenga board anymore. Jenga board's about as good as I can get it, short of maybe getting critical hit damage. I could get more damage out of the Jenga board, but I'm not going to get a better block chance. So I could use a better ring there, better necklace there, and maybe some better Reaper's Wraps. Well, folks, that's all for me tonight. This is Skaggly Bones out. I gotta go.